Hello and welcome back to Own Your Peace. I'm your host, Andy Thewison, and today we're doing things a little bit different around here. So, most of the time, I'm set up in my studio and I have a polished message for you. And today I thought we're doing it different because the whole point of the work that I do is for you to throw away the script and live your life on your own terms. So, why am I not doing that when I show up on podcast episodes? Usually I have an outline, I have a direction, I know what I'm going to share. And I think that's important for us to have structure in our lives. But if the structure is feeling like it's suffocating you, if it's clouding your creative receptivity, or if it's making you feel caged at all, I want to give you permission to throw it all away, scrap it all. And that's what I wanted to do today because I felt a little clustered or a little held back in my creative expression. For me personally, as we move through all these huge planetary moves, with Neptune moving into Aries, Saturn moving into Aries, these are both landing in my fifth house. And those are my creative expression, the way that I show up, the programs and things that I create. So when I'm feeling restricted in those areas, I'm learning lessons, especially with Saturn sitting there. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to start a series where I have no agenda. I have nowhere I want to go. I'm just going to allow what needs to come through, to be a pure and open channel for those listeners tuning in. So, do I have a script today? I do not. But we're doing things different. We're being brave. We're being bold. I am harnessing this energy of the fire horse. The fire horse is asking you to let go of scripts, to let go of ways of being, and to truly embody boldness, to embody doing things differently, challenging yourself, getting out of everything that may have held you back. I'm allowing myself to just show up authentically, to allow myself to be the pure channel that I am, that I know I am, that I show up in every session for my clients with. As I was sitting in meditation and preparing for today's episode, I had this remembrance of this Instagram post that triggered the crap out of me. And I think that this is something that is going to be felt when I talk about this. And I want you to think and be curious about maybe why this triggered you too, or if you found yourself being comforted by it. Because I feel like a lot of us were either comforted by it, and I think it's why it had gone so viral, or it triggered something in you, a rebellion, an uprising a little bit. And that's kind of what it brought out in me. So it was this cute little, she's not little, she had a huge following. When I went over, I'm like, oh, she's got like 90,000 followers. She's got a good following on here. So nothing to be trifled with. But the concept was, I'm going to de-influence you. So that was the hook. And I was like, okay, I like these de-influencing posts. They've been fun to see. But it was her going over how her circumstances had caused her to live a smaller life. And she was normalizing that they've lived in the same, townhouse for the last 5 years because of the economy, and how they can't do vacations because of the economy. And everything was this woe is me tale as to why she was living small. So I think what her intention was is that, oh, it's okay if you're not where you want to be. It's the economy. There's all these things outside of yourself that you have no control over. Not all of us are going to be killing it on social media and making all this money and being successful. And I see the intent. I see the heart there. But I want you to challenge that. I really do. If you saw that and you're like, oh, I'm comforted by that, but a part of you was like rebellious against it. You see how it brings out both energies? And that's the point. And probably why it had so much virility to it. It was because it caused a question point within ourselves. What timeline are you entertaining? If you want to manifest wealth, prosperity, and more into your life, and or maybe you already have wealth in your life, but other areas of your life you're struggling. You have, issues with your relationship. We all have these areas of our life, or maybe your health needs an upgrade, whatever it is. Are these self-proclaimed limitations, or these limitations and conditions that have been placed upon us in society, are they holding you back? Are they keeping you small? I look at this, this Instagram person. She's got 90,000 followers. She should, if she was being strategic, be able to make her money and give her family the abundance and prosperity that clearly has been evading her. And the first thing she did was she blamed it out on circumstances outside of herself. I guarantee you, there are people, maybe even in the same niche, with smaller followings that are making more money than she is. See how it's what we allow ourselves to believe that creates our reality. She decided that she was going to blame the economy. She was going to blame all these things outside of herself. And that was the reason why they were stuck where they were, and why these things were always, the carrot that kept moving. That was the vibe of the overall post. I don't want you to do is allow that to be a limitation. There are people who are buying houses right now. There are people who are making major moves in their business right now. The only limits that are available to you are the ones that you create for yourself. Are you buying into these stories of reality, air quotes there? Are you going to allow yourself to see and embody different? Are you going to allow yourself to open yourself up to possibility, open yourself up to other ways of bringing abundance, vitality, health, relationships? I see so many beautiful people who are struggling with relationships. Their marriages are crumbling, or they're newly single, and it's, dire out there. When we open ourselves up to possibility and the manifestation process, we have to have faith and trust and hold the vision of what we want to bring into our experience. And yes, that ties into astrology. Yes, that ties into human design, because each of us energetically can do these things in very unique and different ways. So one of the things I do when I work with my clients is I help them figure out what works best for them based on those key concepts. And then we lean in. That is the whole point of human design and astrology, is where do we lean in? Where do we put more of our energy so that we get a bigger bang for our buck? So that we learn how to move more smoothly throughout our life. For me, I know that when I'm the most individualized I can be, and I do things in my own way, and I share my heart and I share my perspective, that's going to bring more momentum for me. Is that the biggest challenge I have? 100%. I hide behind the mask of perfectionism and feeling like I have to show up in this cultured way. If I am going to show you how to be an embodied CEO, then I have to wear the suit. I have to be in an office. But I want to show you that you can do things on your own terms. I'm in my sweats, little bit of makeup on, and I'm showing up. And I'm showing you how to do things on your own terms, to make your own rules, to bust out of the boxes. Every podcasting manual is probably rolling their eyes at the way that I'm doing this podcast episode. That's the freaking point. There are no rules. I want you to repeat after me. There are no rules. The only rules we have are be kind, be a good human, have respect for others, and do no harm. Other than that, go for it. Break down the rules, burn the limits, burn the restrictions, and step into who you want to be, not who you are. And this is where we get into a really interesting concept within manifestation, and also stepping into new versions of ourselves. We have this habit of regressing into former versions of ourselves, where we know this is where we're supposed to be, And then we do the things that our lazy us would want us to do, and we backslide. So I want you to hold yourself to a higher standard. I want you to see, always curious, never judgmental of where you're doing that, where you're backsliding, where you need to set stronger boundaries. And if boundaries is a trigger word, where do you need to set higher standards for yourself? Where this is what I do. This is what, the gal who makes 7 figures does. She doesn't do this. Why am I doing that? See how we do this as we transition and we move forward. And then we can do what we would like to do. We can claim this big, boldful, beautiful life where the economy doesn't affect us. These things that are like outside of ourselves have no power because we did not allow them to have power over us. That hits so hard for me. I hope that that does for you as well. Okay. The next thing I wanted to dive into was the Olympics. There were some really beautiful stories that came out of the Olympics over the weekend, and they really resonated with me because they tie right into what I'm always talking about. The first one I want to talk about, you probably already know, is Alyssa Liu, and I do apologize if I pronounced that name incorrectly, but she's a figure skater who gave up figure skating at the age of 16. She retired from the sport because of the boundaries and restrictions and the weight of doing it not on her own terms. But what she did proved to us the validity of what I'm trying to tell you today is that when we do things on our own terms and we do things in our own way, that's where our power lies. And then she ends up winning a gold after being retired from the sports. But she did just come back and play the same game. She came back and played a game on her own terms. She trained the way she wanted to train. She chose the music she wanted to do. She did the choreography that she wanted to do. She didn't play small. She didn't just come around and like, oh, I'm just going to do an airy dairy carry routine. She did it, but she did it in her own terms. She was power. She embodied joy and play and fun and levity without the natural restriction that a lot of these athletes have been held to, that standard that this is the way that we do it. And she broke every single rule and she won. And it was so joyful because the way that she did it was so different than everyone that's been doing it for so long. That is the reason why I had this memory to talk about that this week. Because like I said, I had no idea what I was going to come up today, but for that one, she did it on her own terms and in her own way. And that's what I want you to remember and take away from her story. And when we do that, we lean into our gifts. Her gifts is her creativity, her spunk, her spirit. And that's what carried her to the gold. Huge lesson for us all to take home. I loved that story so much. And then the other one was this by Eileen Gu, who, bless her heart, like the amount of restraint from not answering that idiot of a reporter, mad props to you. I would have gone maybe a little in a different direction because such a terrible question. So the question that the reporter asked, if you haven't caught on to the story on social media, is did you see that as 2 silver gained or 2 golds lost? Are you kidding me? She just freaking won second in the entire world and you're questioning her value because she didn't get gold? First of all, you deserve what you get, and you would have got a different response from me. Totally poised response. I'm the most decorated female free skier in history. I think that's an answer in and of itself. Yes, way to clap back with some grace. And she continued to go into this and explain why. And then you go into a little bit more of her backstory, and she studies quantum physics. She studies neuroplasticity and changing in the level of becoming, of really using the mind to create who you want to be. Again, both these stories lead us right back to the point of what I started this whole conversation with. I'm going to land the plane here on that. We have the ability to remove limitations, to burn the rule books, but it's going to take setting higher standards for ourselves and holding ourselves to those higher standards. And if that takes moving to your bedroom and recording a podcast from your bed so you don't feel like you're restrained at all, or maybe it's doing something different and a new way of being that helps change things up in your life. I want you to sit with this question. Where are you feeling caged in your life? Where are you feeling like you have this stagnancy of being? Where are you holding yourself back? Right now, I think so many of us, especially in midlife, if you're in your late 30s and beyond, there's this deep incongruence and this deep unsettlement of being. It's because we're all getting called up to the majors, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But there's this pull, and I'm seeing it time and time again with the conversations that I'm having and with the clients that are coming in my doors. It's we were sold a bill of goods. We were sold that if we follow this life trajectory, if we check all these boxes, then we'll be happy. We'll be fulfilled. And so many of us have done the thing. We got married. We had families. We got the job. We climbed the corporate ladder. And we're at the top of this thing, and there isn't fulfillment. There isn't joy. There's just bleakness and a really unsettled feeling of like, what else is there? What's next? What am I even doing with my life? And that's what I want you to really sit with right now. We are in between the portal window of eclipses. This is a time for really strong reevaluation and allowing ourselves to let go and let God and trust that these subtle shifts that we're feeling within ourselves, the subtle uncomfortability that you might be sitting in is guiding you to your next steps, guiding you into what you need to let go of. So sit with that. Sit with what doesn't resonate. And I'm going to give you full permission slip to let it all burn, let it all go. If it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't feel good in your heart, if it doesn't feel good in your soul, it's time to just let it go and trust that on the other side of whatever you're letting go, that there's something really beautiful that wants to be birthed. Because at the end of a dead, cold winter, there's always spring. There's always new birth. There's always regrowth. And that is the portal that so many of us are finding ourselves in midlife, is we've come to this point of uncomfortability in our own lives, or there's the point of comfortability and complacency where we feel stagnant in our lives and we're numbing out and we want to be brought back to life. Those things happen, but they only are on the other side of trusting and surrender. Let me know if this new style of podcasting resonated, if you liked In Bed with Andy. Maybe we'll call it that. But yeah, we're doing things in our own way. We're doing things in our own style. We're breaking rules. We're burning down bridges. We are here to claim better for ourselves. We're not going to be okay with complacency. We're not going to be okay with playing small. We want nothing but the best. We only have one, we have more than one life. That's up to debate. But this lifetime is our one and only this lifetime. And we get to play big. We get to choose who we want to be. We get to choose how we work with the neuroplasticity of our brain. We get to decide our terms. This is your fight song. This is your liberation. Much love. Until next week.